The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a successful review, and today we're going to be taking a look at one of the Transformers action figures that, after it was announced, and then a shout out to a good friend of mine, Diecast Norbs. Please subscribe to his channel. After watching his review of this figure, it inspired me to get it, and this is one of the surprise figures from that was released last year in 2024. It's been somewhat hard to obtain for some collectors because it's a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, and it is the Transformers Comic Edition Straxus figure. So yes, the new subline that's exclusive to Hasbro Pulse, Hasbro's own online shopping website. It features characters that appeared in the Transformers Generation 1 Marvel Comics, and so Hasbro decided to go full-blown tribute to the G1 Marvel comic books by having the boxes that these new figures come packaged in be based off one of the covers of the comic books that they appeared in. And so this character, as the video's title has revealed, is none other than Decepticon Straxus. So for those of you, quick background information on who exactly is Straxus. Straxus appeared, I believe he appeared in only one comic book. Maybe it was broken into a two-parter, but he only appeared in one story where it was revealed that he was the warden of the Decepticon prison that was called the Darkmount, and all sorts of unspeakable tortures and horrors awaited any Autobots or even treacherous Decepticons that entered the Darkmount prison. And yeah, Straxus was more of, even though he was the warden of the Darkmount prison, he was more of an executioner. And so yeah, he was pretty brutal, pretty violent. But then one of the Autobots who crash-landed on the Darkmount prison was Blaster, who got separated from his squadron of Autobots. A battle ensued in which Straxus tried to do to Blaster like he did to most other Autobots who ended up in the Darkmount prison. He tried to destroy him, but with help from another Autobot named Scrounge, who actually got a Legends class or Core class figure in the Combiner Wars line back in 2016 in the Computron box set. Straxus was able to help Blaster fight back again. Scrounge was able to help Blaster fight back against Straxus, and Scrounge unfortunately died, and seeing Scrounge die is what finally motivated Blaster to not hold back, and he finally was able to blast Straxus to bits, and Blaster kicked his chassis into oblivion, and to the horror and to the surprise of Straxus, he found himself outclassed during the last moments of his life, and so Blaster was able to defeat Straxus once and for all. And I can't remember if the Darkmount prison was destroyed afterward or not, but yeah, that's why Straxus, his appearance was brief, brutal, violent, and why he only appeared in one issue, because he found out that Blaster was stronger than he appeared. So yeah, this is an homage to the cover of that comic book that they appeared in Blaster and Straxus battle between two worlds, the two worlds being Cybertron and Darkmount. You've got Optimus Prime, who had appeared on the cover of the Transformers More Than Meets the Eye comic books published by Marvel. Marvel got the 40th anniversary logo, and yes, the comic edition action figures are designed to interact and stand beside Transformers figures being released in the mainline Generations line. So, since he was released last year during the 40th anniversary of the Transformers franchise, one could argue that comic edition Straxus is also Legacy United Straxus. So yeah, pretty obscure character that they did here. This isn't the first time Hasbro did an action figure of Straxus. The first time we got an action figure of Straxus was way back in the original Generations line back in 2010. And wow, I can't believe now that it's the year 2025, the Generations line was launched 15 years ago. But here's the first original Straxus action figure from the Generations line. Hasbro couldn't get a registered trademark on the name Straxus at the time in 2010, so this action figure was named after the prison that Straxus was warden of Darkmount. So if you ever wanna look up this action figure, then type in your internet search bar Transformers Generations Darkmount. But yeah, that was the first Straxus figure ever released. That figure was a new mold. The comic edition figure is not. It's a repaint and a retool of the Kingdom Galvatron mold, of which this version I'm holding here in my hand is the Legacy Galvatron on figure. But the type of Cybertronian tank that Straxus was shown transforming in the comic book that he appeared in was close enough to Generation 1 Galvatron that I can see why the designers at Hasbro and Takara went with retooling the Kingdom Galvatron mold for Straxus. So, yeah, pretty unique take on him. These sides of the box, luckily my cameras are it's showing up more on my camera. They're a little darker in person than they're actually appearing on my camera. But you got some black-and images from the comic panels of the comic book Straxus appeared in. Here he's showing that there's an intruder that's arrived on the Darkmount. Some of the other prison guards were the Insecticons. You've got, I believe that's Venom, the leader of the Deluxe Class Insecticons, who's being given a Deluxe Class figure later this year. Then you've got the 3 original Insecticons of Bombshell, Shrapnel, and Kickback. And Straxus is kicking Venom, telling him to go and find out who the intruder is. But I believe the Insecticons also were defeated by Blaster and Scrounge. So after failing to hear a report back from the Insecticons, Straxus transformed into his alt mode to track down and destroy the intruder. And Straxus got the first blow on Blaster here, as you can see. But by the end of the comic, Blaster was the one who defeated Straxus permanently, and his reign of terror over the Darkmount prison was ended. Here on the top of the box, you've got an image of Straxus's face, along with the 1984 Decepticon characters standing here underneath. You got Megatron, you got Soundwave, Ravage, Laserbeak and Buzzsaw, Shockwave, and then of course Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp. I don't know who that little guy there in the back is with the K. Ape, but if it's like one of the first humans who allied with the Decepticons, I don't know if that's supposed to be Dr. Argaville or if it's an original character from the comics. But yeah, you've got the 1984 Decepticon cast here in silhouette on the top of the box. Bottom of the box, barcode and nothing special. And then on this side of the box, Straxus is one of 4 comic edition Transformers figures that's been released so far. And if you line all the boxes here on the side, which shows the this is the box art of the character, and it's done in the style of the same AIM drawings that Marvel was doing on the Generation 1 comic books back in 1984. And if you get all of the comic edition Transformers action figures together, the box art of the characters, it lines up and makes a mural. This part of the box is comic edition Grimlock's tail. And then over here on this side of the box, that is, I believe that's either Flame or Emirate from the 2-pack of Autobot Flame and Emirate Zeron. That's one of their fists right there. I have the Flame and Zeron. They're on a 2-pack. I was going to review it alongside Straxus originally, but I decided to do separate reviews on them since there's a lot to say about the characters, even though they're as obscure as Transformers characters get. So I will show off that half of the mural at least. I have no plans on getting the other comic edition action figures right now, which are Grimlock and Shockwave, since they're just repaints of the Siege and Studio Series 86 figures of Shockwave and Grimlock, respectively. But yeah, there's box art of Straxus done in the same style as the G1 comic book that he appeared in. Coming out here at the back of the box, you've got some product photos. So there is Straxus in his robot mode and his alt mode of a Cybertronian tank cannon. He transforms back and forth between both modes in 39 steps. He was released last year in 2024 for the 40th anniversary. And then you've got some more panel sections from the G1 comic book where he and the Decepticons are trying to find the Autobot intruder who's tearing apart the Darkmount prison. Is in Straxus finally found Blaster, transformed into his alt mode of an Earth boombox. And that was one of the things with the comic book, is that Blaster ended up getting lost while he was on a journey back to Cybertron after having arrived already on planet Earth, so he already had his alt mode of his Earth alt mode of a boombox. And then right by the end of the comic, for all the punches Straxus beat into him, Blaster was able to beat them twice as back, and he was able to kick Straxus's butt into oblivion. So yeah, there's a panel showing Blaster getting the last kick against Straxus. And then one nice thing about the comic edition Transformers is that you open them up and they're being sold in a display case type box as if they were collector action figures here. Unfortunately, there is no plastic window. Plastic windows have slowly been making a comeback. The first Transformers action figure that saw the return of plastic windows after they were absent for over 2 years was the Target Store Optimus Prime here behind me. That was the first Transformers action figure released last year in 2024 that had a plastic window. Another one, which is right behind my back, is the Target Store exclusive Legacy United Cliffjumper Versus 4-pack that had a plastic window on it as well. So plastic windows are slowly making a comeback to Transformers action figures. Another figure I bought last year in 2024 that had a plastic window that was released for the first time last year was the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Death's Head figure. So some Transformers fans and collectors have been disappointed that even though these are the way the display case box is and everything, and it even seals with 2 pieces of Velcro. There's the other half of the Velcro there on the flap, and the flap on the inside, it has another panel section of Straxus transforming into his alt mode and taking flight, and it has a paragraph bio of him. So it is discouraging to know that Hasbro and Takara Tomy decided not to bring plastic windows back for these comic edition Transformers action figures, because if there was a plastic window there, then that would seal the deal and make these high-end collector's items. But without the plastic window, even if you were to keep the figure, the box that the figure comes in its entirety inside another box and keep it sealed off from dirt, moisture, and light from the sun, and there is a risk that a layer of dust could get on it, and so it wouldn't be in mint condition. And that's been the paradox with open window Transformers action figures and other products that aren't packaged in an entirely sealed packaging, is that could it be sold as a mint edition collector's item someday 10, 15, 20, 25 years in the future. So yeah, that's just my own gripe with the open window package. But Straxus does come transformed into his robot mode. The number of retooled parts on him they're the same. They're the same as the number of parts on him that are identical to Galvatron. And so I'd say it's about only 50% of the figure that's been retooled with new parts. And then coming over here to the inside of the box, his bio reads, Straxus rules over the smelting pools of Polyhex, melting down Autobots and neutral Cybertronians into metal to be reused by the Decepticons. Though he only reigns over a small corner of the galaxy, we all know there is no mercy in his domain, only death. So yeah, Polyhex was one of the sections of the Darkmount prison. It was the worst of the worst place to be, almost like a solitary confinement. In other prisons, it can be considered the worst of the worst at times. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You got the Transformers More Than Meets the Eye logo up there on the top of the box. You've got his name printed out here along with the 40th anniversary Transformers logo, and the stripe running behind it is red on top and purple on the bottom to show that there's both Autobots and Decepticons being released in the comic edition line. Whether or not we're going to get more comic edition characters than the 4 or box sets that have been released already, which are technically 5 characters that have been released, that it's uncertain at this point. But if we do, I hope we get more comic edition. If we do get more action figures in the Hasbro Pulse exclusive comic edition line, I hope they're characters like Straxus and also like Flame and Zeron, where they're characters that originally appeared in the comic books and might or might not have been given any Transformers action figures prior to this. And I hope they aren't just the comic versions of existing popular characters such as Grimlock and Shockwave. But yes, pretty nice box that Straxus comes packaged in. So without further delay, let's get Straxus out of the box and take a close look at him in robot mode. Alright, and so here is Straxus out of the box and transformed into his robot mode, and I am really impressed with how he turned out. He's very accurate to his appearance in the comic books, much more so than the Generations Deluxe Darkmount figure. Here's a close-up of his head sculpt. My camera is blurring it out when I get figures too close to the lens, but there's a Decepticon logo on Straxus's forehead, and I really wish that Hasbro and Takara would go back to printing faction symbols with either white or silver outlines on the Transformers figures, because even though it does help them be more of robots in disguise, and it is accurate to their appearances in the comic books and even in the G1 cartoon by Marvel, where Marvel didn't put outline frames for the Transformers faction symbols, I think it does help them pop out better, but that's just a minor nitpick on my part. But yeah, I really enjoy how Straxus came out. There's a close-up of his face once again, and he has almost like this snake mask feature going for him, and I think that's what they were going for when designing Straxus. I had a shout out to a friend of mine, Ultra Megatronus, on his live stream the other day, which was actually yesterday as of this video's recording. I said that Straxus' head to me almost looked like a cross between a bat and an owl, but yeah, the point is about Straxus is that he has a monstrous looking face sculpt. Trying to see if I can get the light shining there. He does have eyeballs sculpted there deep inside, but they aren't near the surface of his face, so it's almost like you don't know what Straxus's real face looks like, or if this is his face and he just designed it to be like a mask. But yeah, his eyeballs are recessed deep inside his head, so he almost looks like he has soulless eyes, and that's the whole thing with Straxus, is that he is and I think that's one of the reasons why they went with retooling him from the Kingdom Galvatron mold, is because just like Galvatron, Straxus is psychotic, and he has no control over what he does. Now, one thing I just noticed here on my copy of Straxus is that if you look closely right here on the shoulder joints, and this is one part of Straxus that's the same as Galvatron, but on the shoulder joint for Galvatron, he has this like sculpted, almost like hexagonal or oval shaped inset on the shoulders. It's here on Straxus' side, but on the other side, I turn it around, it doesn't go all the way to the other side, and so unfortunately, now that he's out of the box, on my copy of Straxus, the back side of the shoulder, he has two of the left side shoulders. This one is not the right side, is not the back right side of the shoulder, it's the same as the left, and I was wondering why his right side arm is moving so much stiffer than the left side. That's because it has the incorrect shoulder piece on the back. So if anyone else has had that, who decided to get a hold of Straxus, has that same QC issue, please let me know, because if you do, then it's a universal problem with the figure. So that's a little that's very discouraging to see out of the box, that my copy of Straxus has the wrong shoulder on one of his arms. The shoulders were placed on backwards on the actual shoulder joint on the arm that pivots inward. That keeps the center of the shoulder on the first release of Galvatron in the Kingdom line. That version of the figure, the shoulders were put on facing the opposite direction. It doesn't really hinder the transformation back and forth between robot mode and vehicle mode, but it did make the joint feel out of place and feel like it wasn't up to its full potential. And I can feel that now here on Straxus, with the way the shoulder is facing this arm is definitely tighter than this one due to the incorrect joint. Right, so just be aware of that. And the shoulder joints themselves, they aren't the outsides of the shoulders, they aren't red plastic like the center is. You can see the center is more matte when I put my finger here and I hide the light from it and it's in shadow. The center of the shoulder is red plastic, but the outsides of the shoulder are red paint that's been painted on blue plastic. The same with all the red parts here on Straxus' chest, that's red paint on blue plastic. The parts of Straxus that are made out of red plastic are his wrist joints that keeps his hands attached to the arms, the center of the shoulders, the bicep, the upper arm between the bicep and the elbow joints, and then these hinge joints right here on his back that transform the robot mode arms into the support struts for his alt mode of a cannon. That's red plastic as well. And also this little hinge right here that hinges this piece up and down. And that's red plastic as well. But the rest is paint. And so at least the front of the shoulder, is correct on the right side arm. So it is a mirror image of the left side of the front. So just be mindful all of that QC issue if you decide to get Straxus. Apart from that, everything else. But so for the parts of Straxus that are bringing in for a size comparison, here he is next to the Legacy repaint of Kingdom Galvatron, the Legacy release. What makes this distinct from the Kingdom Galvatron is the lack of battle damage paint, but that's neither here or there since this review is about Straxus. So the parts of these two figures that are the same, the base of the neck that the head sits on top of, it's the same on Galvatron and Straxus. There's the shoulder towers, which are black and silver on Galvatron. They're the same as the blue ones on Straxus. And I believe the entirety of the actual robot mode arm is the same. Or the upper arm is the same. Yeah, the upper arms all the way down to the elbow joints are the same. The elbow joints are the same. The hands are the same. The parts of the arm that are different are the parts made out of gray plastic, the lower arm, and then the tank treads that hang off the back. Those are different on Straxus than they are on Galvatron. The robot mode chest is, of course, different. The waist piece, which you can see right there. Here it looks like a gray utility belt on Galvatron. It's the same as Straxus, but it looks like it isn't at first just because the center of Straxus's torso section comes down and it sits over it. But yeah, that's the same. The robot mode chest is the only part of the torso that's different. The top section of the cannon, which becomes the backpack, it's different on Galvatron and Straxus, even though they're similarly shaped. But the back side of the torso that it plugs into, it's the same on both figures. And then I'm looking at them both side by side, and the front of the robot mode pelvis is the crotch is different on Straxus than it is on Galvatron, but the the side panels here that sit on the top of the thighs, eyes, and then the entirety of the legs from the pelvis all the way down to the feet. They're the same on Galvatron and Straxus. The only part that's different on Straxus from Galvatron are the actual knees. Galvatron has these tall knee spikes, and Straxus does not. So the only part of the legs that are different are the front knees. So I said at the start of the review that about 50% of Straxus was new parts from Galvatron, and the rest was shared. But I'm thinking it's more 75% of the parts are the same as they are in Galvatron, and it's only about 25% of the figure that's new sculpting detail. But it's enough of a distinction that you can tell Straxus apart from Galvatron when they stand opposite each other. And for a size comparison, here is Straxus next to the Generations Deluxe Darkmount figure that was released back in 2010. So this was the first attempt at an action figure of Straxus. This was the first ever Straxus action figure, even though Hasbro couldn't get a registered trademark on his name. And at the time, they were at least able to name him after the prison that he's warden of. But yeah, here they are side by side, and yeah, this new comic edition figure that's retooled from the Kingdom Galvatron mold. This is a lot more accurate to Straxus' appearance in the comic books than this figure is. This figure was a pretty decent attempt when it was released back in 2010, but with the release of this new action figure here, this one now puts the deluxe figure from 2010 to shame. But yeah, I'm really enjoying seeing them side by side. So setting that off to the side, right there. So yeah, this is the must-have Straxus action figure to have in anyone's collection. The double-bladed axe was his signature weapon in the comic books. It's the one he kept whacking Blaster with and kept failing to beat him off with. One thing that is reminiscent of the comics are the black streaks here on Straxus' arms, his cannon, and in the black streaks here on his legs, which aren't mirror images of each other. They're on the same side, and then he's got it's hard for my camera to pick them out, but there's a bunch of silver dots here on the side, and that's just to pay homage to the light and shadow techniques that the comic book artists did at the time back in the 1980s, where they would have streaks of either black, white, or silver run across certain parts of a character to show that it was shiny, glossy, reflective metal, reflecting off streaks of light shining on them. So that was the technique that existed back in the 1980s. See it here on Straxus' crotch, where one side of the crotch has more black striping on it than the other side. So it's almost like the camera is moving his axe down so you can see his face. It's almost like there's light shining on Straxus from this angle, and these black streaks are designed to represent how reflective and shiny the metal on his body is. So that was the art style that existed in the comic book industry in 1984 and 1985. So yeah, nice homage to that. So yeah, I'm a little bummed about the shoulder joint, but apart from that, I'm just really thrilled to have this new action figure of Straxus. And for those of you asking, could I just buy a new one off of Hasbro Pulse? I actually just checked last week when I was debating on reviewing Straxus, and he is now officially sold out of Hasbro Pulse. So the only way you're going to be able to get Straxus is if you find a scalper selling him for double or more or retail price than what he went for on Hasbro Pulse. Also, I actually bought Straxus back in September of last year when he was still right when he first came out, or around the time shortly after he came out. So Straxus was available last year in 2024, but he's not available now, and I honestly don't know if Hasbro is going to restock the comic edition Transformers action figures. So yeah, as far as rarity among the Transformers figures released in the overall Generations line, Straxus is unfortunately one of the rarest ones out there right now. Yeah, the obscure characters, they aren't... This is an example of a character who's so obscure, Hasbro decided it wouldn't sell at mass retail, so let's just make it an exclusive, and only the most die-hardened of fans and collectors who want an action figure of the character are going to get it. So, yeah, that's been in my personal opinion, that's been the mentality at Hasbro when it comes to deciding which Transformers characters get released at mass retail and which ones get released as exclusives. So, without further delay, I have babbled on long enough, so let's get Straxus out of his robot mode, transform him into his alt mode, and we will wrap up the review. Alright, and so here is Straxus transformed into his alt mode of a Cybertronian cannon, and yeah, he is one menacing looking Decepticon with this cannon alt mode. And yeah, I can definitely see why they went with retooling the Galvatron mold instead of designing a whole new mold for Straxus. It works really well for him, and considering the fact that Straxus appeared in the Transformers comic books in 1985, the same year that the Transformers Generation 1 movie was slowly starting to be in production, it kind of makes you question which canon came first. Was it Galvatron or Straxus? But yeah, here they are side by side with each other with all their accessory pieces attached. The only two accessory pieces are Straxus' laser gun, which becomes the cannon for the barrel for his cannon mode. And then of course you got his axe weapon, which just sits here on top, and then the blades fold down to make the cannon more streamlined. So yeah, pretty similar transformation to Galvatron. There is one added step in the transformation with the retooled parts where the these flaps for Straxus' robot mode chest, you fold them backward, and they become two bottom sections for the cannon. It does take away one step where the new robot mode knees that Straxus has, there's the way they're angled here on position, it prevents the leg from folding down all the way like Galvatron, and be careful with that because it's on the same hinge joint, so if these two little sections right here, these two square-shaped sections above these little gray parts, if those two black pieces chip off, or if you wanted to file them off, then the legs do have the potential to the robot mode feet have the potential to fold all the way down like they do on Galvatron, and they could fold all the way down. So just be mindful that if you transform the robot mode feet to the back of the cannon mode for Straxus 2 roughly, then those pieces could break off and you could end up having it folded all the way down. The drawback to that, as you can see right here, is that putting them side by side at the bottom of them, Straxus's base sits it's a quarter of an inch higher than Galvatron, and so his tank mode is designed to sit flatter and closer to the ground than Galvatron's does. Just like Galvatron Straxus, he has 4 little plastic wheels. There's 2 blue wheels here at the edge of the supports for the cannon. There's 2 wheels here on the back, so he can roll around on a flat surface, though not very well. I just tried it out myself off camera. But yeah, at least he has 4 little plastic wheels to roll around on. I don't know, so yeah, just be mindful of those parts potentially breaking if you transform Straxus too roughly or too quickly. But apart from that, I really like the cannon mode. It's very accurate to his appearance in the G1 comic books. And despite the fact that less than half of Straxus's sculpted parts and detailing is different from Galvatron, and more than half of him is the same as Galvatron, I think it just works for Straxus overall, him being mold-mates with Galvatron. I've always viewed Galvatron on due to the fact that he becomes psychotic and paranoid, and he becomes a psychopath. That's what Straxus is. Galvatron is a psychopath, but Straxus is borderline psychopath, so there's quite a few parallels between Galvatron and Straxus. The main reason is that Straxus didn't really, unlike Galvatron, whose desire for power made him want to remain commander of the Decepticons after he was a Unicron rebirth, gave him new life from Megatron. Straxus was content being a warden of the Darkmount prison and torturing Autobots who were captured by the Decepticons and making the last days of their lives a living hell. So yeah, Straxus is quite a brutal Decepticon. He's not well known compared to other psychotic and brutal Decepticons such as Galvatron or even other characters from the comic books such as G-Axis. Axis, due to the fact that he appeared in just one issue in the G1 run, and I don't know if Straxus has appeared in any modern Transformers comic books by IDW. I should have looked at that on the Transformers Wikipedia before I started recording the video, but yeah, I really enjoy this alt mode. It is far superior, just like robot mode, than the alt mode for the deluxe Generation Straxus figure that we got under the name of Darkmount back in 2010. This is his vehicle mode is a half-track tank, which half-track tanks don't exist anymore. They were used during World War II, during the 1940s, but by the 1950s, the thought process behind half-track tanks is that having the front of the vehicle be a pair of tires and then the back be a set of tank treads, that it would make the vehicle faster on the battlefield, and that it would be have more maneuverability, having wheels on the front and treads on the back. But it was discovered that half-track vehicles were difficult to control and also to stop up at high speeds, and so half-track vehicles were found to be unreliable and made obsolete. So there's just a brief history of that. But getting back on topic here, as far as which is the superior Straxus figure, it is definitely the new comic edition Straxus figure. It puts the old Generations Deluxe figure to shame. And as far as comparing Straxus to his mold mate, the figure he's repainted and retooled from, which is the Kingdom/Legacy Galvatron figure, as far as which is the superior version of this mold, is Galvatron still reigning supreme, or has Straxus dethroned him? I honestly can't decide which of these is the better figure, because I enjoy both characters and I like both of these tank modes. They're both very evil and menacing looking, and there's enough of unique design to distinguish them from each other. If I had to pick a favorite of these two figures, to pick a favorite canon out of both of these figures, even though I like Galvatron more as a character and I've always enjoyed him more, I think Straxus' tank mode is an improvement over Galvatron's This is technically the first time I transformed the Legacy Galvatron figure into his cannon mode. But in terms of transformation, it's pretty much the same on both of them, but I just really enjoy the more streamlined look that Straxus has for his Cybertronian tank than Galvatron. But that's just my own preference. But if I'm being honest with myself, I enjoy both of these equally there. So this has been my review of the Transformers Hasbro Pulse exclusive comic edition Straxus action figure. And so to finish off the review with the proverbial question, do I recommend getting the Transformers comic edition Straxus figure and adding it to your Transformers collection? I absolutely do. If you can get a hold of Straxus, then get him. You are missing out if you don't have him in your collection, and you will not regret at getting him once you do have him inside your collection. Be mindful that your copy of Straxus could suffer the same Kishi issue that mine did, where you've got two of the same shoulders that are supposed to be for just one arm being on both. So just bear in mind with that QC issue with Straxus, where you could have two left side shoulders on both arms or two right side shoulders on both arms. But apart from that QC issue on my copy, I do not regret getting Straxus, and I highly recommend adding him to your collection. Even if you have the original Generations Deluxe Darkmount Straxus figure, and even if you have the Kingdom or Legacy Galvatron on figure in your collection already, I highly recommend getting Straxus. If you have just one copy of Galvatron, and if you decide to purchase Straxus and he would be your second version of this mold, you will not regret double dipping on this mold with Straxus. Because he is a character that I honestly never thought we would get a Voyager / leader class size action figure of him. I thought the original Generations Deluxe figure from 2010 was destined to be the only Hasbro released Straxus figure that we were ever going to get. So yeah, I cannot stress enough how much I recommend getting Straxus and adding him to your Transformers collection. So thank you guys all so much. Thank you to all my subscribers and friends for your continued support. And until next time, you guys, this has been the TF Angeek. Hopefully I'll get another review out soon. And until next time, you guys, please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.